All right, if you have invested in some PTZ cameras, especially for streaming live events, you're going to quickly find the limits of what you can do just with the remote. Yes, they're convenient and you can control most of your camera's functions through it, but especially once you step up to multiple cameras, this is going to get pretty old pretty fast. At which point you're going to start looking into the world of PTZ controllers. So I was excited when AVKANS reached out and asked if I wanted to take a look at what they offer. And I've got it right here in this box. So let's crack it open and take a look. All right, so I got it set up on the table here, and I want to just give you a couple initial observations. I've got it power over Ethernet, so I only got the one cable going to it, which is nice. It does have a regular AC adapter. One thing that's interesting with this is one of the first devices I've tested where when you're powering it over Ethernet, the power switch is still active. A lot of times, like with cameras and stuff, if they're getting power over Ethernet, they actually ignore the power switch. This one, at first I thought the PoE wasn't working, but it's only because I had to turn the power switch on. And once I did that, fired right up. All right, so this is, by the way, very small. This is probably one of the smallest of the controllers that I've tested. It's still got a pretty good heft to it, but if desk space, workspace is a concern, it does have that going for it. And it's also completely flat. A lot of times these are like angled slightly towards the user in some way. They're more like a wedge shape. This is actually totally flat. You got to look top down on it. So again, that's maybe great, maybe not, kind of up to you. All right, so we've got an LCD screen right here that gives us all of our information about the camera. We'll go through setting that up in a minute. It will not preview video for you, so this is just going to control your cameras. You'll have to have something else hooked up to actually see the video coming from the camera. We've got the joystick, which is pretty standard. This one's really springy. I kind of like it. But it's got the twist to zoom, as you're used to seeing, but it has the separate zoom control, which I really, really like. Sometimes when you're twisting, you can actually bump the camera's position when you don't mean to. So having this separate one here is super handy. Otherwise, we got a lot of the stuff you would kind of expect to see. One of the questions I get a lot is people who want to do, asking about getting really smooth scrolling, because they want to be able to pan the camera while they're using it to stream. Really, that's a conversation about speed, right? How fast is your camera moving? So you've got PTZ speed right here on a dial right at your fingertips, which is, again, super handy because if you do want to pan or move your camera while it's working or while it's broadcasting, you can just turn it all the way down, and then you can do a nice slow pan. And then later on, if you just want to make big adjustments, you can turn it all the way back up and adjust the camera more quickly. So having access to that immediately is great. It does have camera recalls. So this is aux section right here. So you got quick camera recalls for up to 6 cameras that you have connected this to, which is really great because it's better, just pushing a button to go to the camera is a lot easier than doing anything else, have multiple button presses. Now these also are labeled, you can see F1. Apparently through the settings you can actually change what these do. So you can have the top 3 for maybe your 3 cameras, and then you can have the bottom 3 do other functions. Not sure what, but I'm sure we will find out. So just on the initial go over of the design, it seems pretty easily laid out. Kind of everything you need, not a lot you don't. This shouldn't be overwhelming for someone to sit down in front of, and it's fairly immediate. Obvious what's going on. So let's go ahead and get this thing set up to talk to a couple of cameras that I have in the room. All right, so I've zoomed in here so you guys can kind of see what's going on. The first thing I want to do is make sure that it's connected to my network the way that I want it to. So I'm going to come over here and hit the setup button. And we can see it's connecting IPconfig over DHCP. Perfect. That's what I want. So we can go ahead and get out of that. And now we should search for a camera. What's interesting is I actually don't have any AVKANS cameras right now. They're all being lent out. A lot of the stuff that I get sent to review, I try to use it or let other people use it in places it can do good work. But that's actually okay. So we're going to be searching for cameras, but these are a different brand than this is. That shouldn't be a problem. I guess we'll see if it is. So we're going to come in here to the camera section. We're going to hit search. And then it's going to ask us what kind we want to search for, whether we were looking for a VISCA connection or an ONVIF connection. Now, this took me a second to figure out. I'm kind of embarrassed to say, but I wasn't sure how to scroll this because normally you do it with the knob. That's not actually how you do it here. You actually use this little dial to scroll between the menu items. So I guess that's how we're doing it. All right, I happen to know that these cameras that I'm looking for that are on my bench right now have ONVIF turned on, so we're going to go ahead and do ONVIF and hit the button. And lickety-split, it came back with all the cameras I would have expected it to find. Currently in our building, there's actually several on and running right now, so we have several to pick from. These first two are the ones that are actually on the workbench with me, so those are the ones we're going to go ahead and test with. So let's go ahead and select good old number 30 there. So ONVIF 30, and I want to come down here. I want that to be camera 1. Admin's already in there because that's the default everybody uses, and we're going to go ahead and say that's okay and hit save. So let's go ahead and go to number 31. That's the other camera. I want to add that as 2. So let's go down to save. Go down to exit. We added those 2 cameras. Exit out of this. So now if I go ahead and hit cam 1, should hopefully connect to my camera. And it did. I hope you can see this on video. This light lights up to tell me which camera is actually in use. I'm controlling. That is super handy. I love that light up feature. And if I go ahead and do this, yep, my camera, I know you couldn't see that right there, but my camera is moving as expected. So if I go to camera 2, and there you go. It connected right there, and now that's the button that's lit up. Again, super cool. It works as you would expect it to, which is great. All right, one of the things to show you here real quick is if you go into setup and to DHCP, it will tell you what its IP address is, which is handy because if you type that IP address into the browser, you actually get a web setup tool as well. So if you don't want to go through the process of searching and scanning for cameras, or if you need ones you need to manually add, and doing that on that little screen is maybe not ideal, you can come to this web backend and do all of that right here without having to do it on the little screen. All right, so I've zoomed out again because there's a couple more things that I want to show you. Like I said earlier, a short press on these cam buttons will switch between the 2 cameras, and of course it lights up the one that you're connected to. To access the function, it's actually a long press. So these buttons are actually doing double duty. They can both be a camera recall, but then on a long press, that's when it activates its other function. In this case, you saw real quickly there, start tracking. Yes, so if you saw my review on the AVKANS auto tracking camera, one of the questions I had was turning the tracking on and off. With this controller, you can do it from right here, which is super nice. And if you press F2, that stops the tracking on whichever camera it's connected to. Now, you can actually control what these do by going into setup, coming down here to assigned key, and you can see the 6 different commands and what they're currently assigned to. So start tracking, stop tracking, power, home. But then this one, CMD2, well, what is that? Well, if you come down here to CMD, obviously standing for command settings, and click on that, you'll see a bunch of stuff that you probably don't know or understand, but that's okay. What these are actually VISCA commands. So when you're controlling your camera, you're actually sending it a series of commands to do what you want it to do that are in this format that we don't understand, but the camera does. And there's a whole chart and table that you can find online of all the various VISCA commands. So you can, right here, enter a custom command and then assign that command to one of your F buttons. So right now F6 is set to command 2, which we saw on that last screen. And because I don't speak VISCA, I have no idea what that's going to do, but I guess I could look it up if I wanted to. So the custom command features, super nice. And then finally, the buttons over here, the knobs over here are really, really helpful. You have an exposure adjust. So this is adjusting your iris, so basically how much light is getting in. And then with an immediate button back to auto if you want to get back there. Then we have different white balance controls as well. And then finally focus, where you can autofocus if you want to, or which is what normally you're going to do, or if you want to tweak your focus, you can do that as well. Notice the light turned off, so now I know that I'm not in autofocus mode, and if I want to go back, I can do that. These are really handy, especially the exposure one. White balance isn't going to change probably too much. Focus is helpful if it's not auto-focusing on what you want. But the exposure is nice, especially if the lighting in your space tends to change. If it gets brighter or darker, being able to have it right here where you can just tweak it at your fingertips is a really great option. And again, all of these are controlling whatever camera that you're currently set up to control. All right, as you can see, in just a matter of a couple of minutes, we were able to get it set up, talking to my network, talking to my cameras, and doing all the things you would expect a controller to do. All in all, I really like this. I like it for what it has. It does literally embody everything you need, probably nothing you don't. It doesn't have a bunch of extra buttons or bells and whistles you're probably not going to use anyway, but for basic camera operations, putting everything you need at your fingertips, it has what you need, which is great. Now, this is not a total going over every feature or everything you can do with a PTZ controller. Obviously, you can use it to set up things like presets and all that stuff too. Everything you would expect to find. It is a really nice small form factor. It's also very solid. It's got really nice little rubber feet on it. It's not going to slide around on your desk. And if you are using the AC power supply, it's got the kind that kind of twists in and kind of locks in place, so you can't accidentally unplug it. That is a really nice feature and not one that is common. And things happen. You're trying to fix a problem with another cable and you accidentally unplug something, right? I mean, so having that it's a little detail, but it's also little details like that says they put the time and energy in to do this right. And then finally, they call it the AV Joy IP. I mean, come on, joy right here in your hand. All right, well, that is the AVKANS controller. You can find them on Amazon. Please, if you do, use the links in the description. They do run about $550, which is not unheard of, and in fact is about the going rate for kind of these higher end, nicely done controllers. Part of that is there's some licensing fees that they have to pay for some of the protocols that they use. So that's sort of a fixed cost. But there's also a lot of moving parts, and you want it to work, and you want it to work well. That is a case in the controllers of you get what you pay for, because what you want is really nice switches. Especially for things like the joystick and the zoom, you want that to be nice and smooth so that you get a good performance out of your camera as well. And those quality parts cost money. So I don't think that's out of range for something you're going to have and use probably for as long as you are streaming, right? You can upgrade cameras, you can upgrade other stuff. Most of the time, any future camera is going to support the same protocols that are used today. So this, again, great place to invest a little bit of money and just get the one you want, especially if space is a consideration in your setup. This has an incredibly small footprint for all the features that it packs. So I hope that was helpful and useful to you. And until I see you again, have a great day. Hey everybody, if you found that video helpful, please hit like and subscribe, and also check the video description for links to any products you've seen in today's videos. Doing that really helps support this channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment with any questions that you may have. A lot of the content I do is based directly on the questions and the feedback you give, so keep that coming and I will keep making them. Thank you.